What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Alex here from Team Generations, and today we are back again with another video. Today we're going to be looking at something that is super fun for premium, deck that not a lot of people take serious, but at the same time it is actually pretty deadly and has like a great kind of strategy. Just very easy to play and very cheap overall. There's two cards in the G zone that I'm including that are pretty expensive, but you don't really need them overall, and it doesn't impact the strategy. The rest of the cards are like dirt cheap. So if you have these cards laying around, I really suggest actually giving this deck a try, because it is just a blast, and like it really goes to show you how strong the clan, I guess, really is in general, and really just pushes this forward even with these cards. But this is going to be a little bit different kind of video. My videos are typically a little bit more detailed, but I don't know if any other things have released before this, but I'm doing a couple in a row like this. So just gonna lay out all the cards and kind of go over it. If you guys are interested in purchasing anything you see here today, we do have a TCG player affiliate link down in the description below. You can shop that link absolutely no cost to you to help support the channel. Thank you in advance. I'm never going to ask you guys for like a subscription, money, anything like that, so that really does help me out. Thank you in advance, like I said. And if you are enjoying the content, make sure you leave a like on the video, possibly consider subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, let's hop right in. So starting right off the bat, we are talking about Grandgallop. So this is crazy, you know, this is a junk card in Vage, something that was not used at all, and I totally get why. But in premium, I feel like it has some decent support and things that can kind of carry it a little bit further overall. And for like a 25-cent VR, if you have a lot of these cards laying around, why not put the deck together? Honestly, that was my kind of thought process, and I was putting together my Dimensional Police deck in premium, and I think that definitely might be a little bit better in certain regards. But I really think this deck over here is competitive in different ways, if not being this like super high roll kind of like rogue element to it. But essentially, this guy over here is great for the ride up turn. You ride up, you swing at your opponent, you know, they're either taking almost a lethal amount of damage and gambling on some crits, or at that point, you know, they're just losing the game. Like I've actually made it over so many 2 passes on this, you know, with 3 crits, 4 crits, whatever it is, where my opponent kind of kept himself low a little bit early if they knew what it was. If not, sometimes they just take too much damage, and then boom, they run into the situation where it's a little bit hard to guard this out. Even if they do have heal guards, the amount of crits you're putting on this is still absolutely insane. So I think this is actually a really solid card to ride up in this current format. Next up over here, something that just kind of messes with your opponent. I'm running 2 of the Taser Lages. So Taser Lage, when something pops out, you know, just rest this unit. I'll rest that unit over there, and again, it's only other than from hand, so you can't really just, you know, do it to anything. But a lot of like mid battle phase things that don't necessarily retire your cards, this is just a great way to kind of interrupt them if they're calling from elsewhere. So I really do actually like it. Next up here too, just 2 of the original or the Bravest Rush Grandgallop. This is one that got reprinted, so again, everything is really cheap in the grade 3 lineup so far. Only really running this for the potential to have to crit a little bit later and a little bit of a power boost. I think it's decent, worth it enough to kind of include in the deck. You can up the Taser Laters if you really feel like it, but I think having 1 to 2 of these is pretty much a pretty good thing. GB3 is not hard to get in this deck at all. Next up here, we are going to get into the grade 2s. I'm running 4 of the Dimensional Robo Kaizard. So Kaizard makes it really easy to get an additional Force 2 marker in this deck. You always want to go Force 2 because of Grandgallop's thing. On the ride up, at least, if you aren't, like, you can go Force 1 if you want, but you're not generating a ton of markers like some of the other kind of Dimension Police decks. So I think that running 4 of these is absolutely essential. This is your ride target every single turn. Having your Vanguard buff up your grade 3 rear guards or other kind of rear guards in general in your front row, just giving them crits, makes it really impactful when you have 2 force markers on your first ride up turn. You know, you're going first, whatever, your opponent doesn't have a heal guardian in hand, you're putting up like lethal numbers, plus 15 whatever to the front, plus that extra crit, plus whatever power that they might gain on their own from triggers and whatnot. So really solid card, and it does become a little bit bigger due to a second skill later on in the game. Because this is a Grandgallop deck over here, we are still running some of the Grand Revolver support, so essentially giving your opponent, your Vanguard, another crit is again part of our whole strategy. And this is really good because it's good late game, it's good early game, it's good on the ride up, good like pretty much everywhere. This deck doesn't blast through resources necessarily. I mean, it definitely does use them, but at the same time, it's not like you have to like conserve or like really think and try to be like starved out. I don't think that using this whenever you see it is pretty much correct at that point. So giving your Grandgallop an extra crit is really solid, and again, gives itself a little more power too, in culmination with potentially your Grandgallop giving it power is really nice, and you could be hitting again 2 crit, 3 crit, whatever it is on your rear guards alone. Next up here in the grade 2, rounding it off, I am actually running 3 of these. There weren't too many other targets in general. This guy over here is not too popular, so this is Star King's Ambassador Vanguard. Over here, essentially, if your opponent's Vanguard is an extra grade higher, this guy gets an additional 15k shield, 20k shields in hand, just really solid. I feel like We don't have a ton of grade 3s in this deck, but I feel like the defensive capabilities of Dimension Police actually go kind of under notice with some disruption here, with some of the extra shield. I feel like, you know, they're going to stride on you no matter what. This makes you not like fear the ride up quite as much as you might typically, so I do like it in there. I feel like it does come up like almost every game, so it's good. It doesn't really do too much for you offensively. Next up here, we are going to be running 2 and 2 of the grade 1 split over here, getting to the grade 1s of the old Cosmic Hero Grand Rope and the new one. Just general top 5 searching is decent, but also we do want to do targeted search over here too. And again, this card can be discarded for stride fodder, which is really solid. Not expensive for this searcher. Again, you go search out the Grandgallop that you want, so you could also search out for the other one over here too. Next up in the grade 1 lineup, we are going to be looking at 3 of Dimensional Robo Dice Cooper. Again, when ridden upon, just too good. You can actually go and search Heal Guardians off of this too. Again, just kind of playing into that whole, oh, Dimension Police's defensive capabilities are kind of underrated because there is a cycle and a kind of loop that you can almost do with your grade 3 Heal Guardian, so this guy really helps you do that. Also, when it's placed, just get an extra 5k to your Vanguard. 5k is 5k, so why not do it? A card that definitely comes up later and kind of carries this deck, honestly. I almost want to bump it, but it's just too dead of a card early on. This is Cosmic Hero, a Grand Scout, so it is important to see that grade 3 heal so you can get into the GB2 skill for this over here, because most of your strides are just on attack, you flip a card, whereas this guy needs it live immediately, so you always need to see pretty much a Heal Guardian and not be afraid of that ride up, so you can pop this off over here. But essentially, this is not a popular card, so let's go over it. When placed on rear, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your Vanguards with Gallop in its card name, double its attack until the end of turn, and then until the end of turn. At the end of turn, retire this unit, Soul Charge 1. So again, Soul Charging 1 is great for that Heal Guardian recycle, because you do need Soul Blast for that kind of like little loop, obviously. And then just doubling your Vanguard's power. There's other things that give power in this deck. There's power here off of this guy. There's a power in just a second with our next grade 1, and just various things kind of do it. Getting your Vanguard to those thresholds that it needs to is super important. This makes it so easy to do. Next up, again, we're talking about giving Vanguard power. We are going to be running 2 of the Dimensional Robo Go Biker. I think this also got reprinted, but basically when placed, you just rest this unit and give your Vanguard 10k. And then if it was a grade 3, if your Vanguard is grade 3, you stand this unit. So again, just an extra 10k, pop that down off this. The Grand Scout, you basically just gave 20k, so it's really, really solid. One of the Enigman columns, just the perfect guards, you do get it once every while. I feel like it's worth it enough really to include it at a one of Commander Laurel over here. Obviously still really, really strong. If your opponent has tanked out and saved damage for the whole game, basically they need to take it at some point. If you have a Laurel on field, it is what it is. Just one of the best cards, limited to 1 in premium. Just, yeah, he needs to be running it, need to be threatening that kind of attack. Next up here too, we do actually still have one of the Cosmic Hero Grand Hop. Grand Hop basically allows us to countercharge, put something in Soul, just gives you a bit more resources overall. It is GB1 locked, which is not hard to get around, but sometimes your opponent will counter-starve you, and this really helps you kind of get around that. 10k shield, you know, it is what it is. I really don't feel like there's like too many other crazy things that we're missing necessarily. You can bump up Dice Cooper by 1 if you want, maybe the Grand Scout as well, but I feel like this does come up, gives your Vanguard a little bit more power and whatnot too. So yeah, also we are running 1 regular starter, so we're not actually on this starter over here. This is just in the deck. Yeah, just need to be running one of the V1s, no big deal. Next up, let's get into the triggers over here. We are going to be looking at one of the over trigger. So the over trigger, very obvious, you know, it's the over trigger. It's the best over trigger in the game, in my opinion. Need to be running it at all times, especially on a restanding Vanguard in your stride zone. 3 of the draw PGs, because we are running 1 of the Enigma Calm. I'm only running 3 Linka. I feel like I see it every game. Again, I know this is probably the card you want to run it for, but I feel like people take this a little bit too lightly in a way, whereas, you know, you ride up into the grade 3, they just end up taking it because they're at 1 damage, 2 damage, whatever it is, and they're like, okay, they're going to be maxing out on stands, maybe they won't see it, whereas I'm just like, okay, I need to have at least 4 to 5 kind of crits in my deck, so to do that, I had to cut down 1 on there, and with that being the case, I'm running 4 of the Stride Fodder crits over here, also 1 of the into Soul, tuck into Soul 1, because Soul is really important, and then you draw, and then lastly, also probably the most important trigger aside from the over trigger over here, is the grade 3 Heal Guardian. This is super important because there is a card we're going to go over in the G zone that kind of relies off of this, and it's like so free overall. It's like super free, so don't be afraid to search your grade 3s, dump them, you'll recycle them a little bit later. Let's hop to the G zone and I'll kind of show you why. Starting off probably with the main card right here. Honestly, this is what I really stride into the most. We are going to be talking about Bravest Peak X Gallop. So X Gallop, basically restanding if it's over the 45 what is it, the 80,000 threshold. Super easy to kind of hit in this deck thanks to the grade 2, the Grand Scout. If you hit that 80,000 by the end of the battle, this basically is able to restand just for a counterblast, flipping up 1. You also get a drive +1, so if it's over 40,000, so again, quad drive, not too bad. Restanding, you don't get another drive off of that, but in general, it's just really, really solid. GB3, you also get, this guy gets an extra 10k for each face-up card in your G-Zone, so again, you pretty much have to G-Guard first, which makes you not afraid to ride up. Like, you have to pretty much do it. You have to G-Guard, essentially, to have 1 up, and then you can use this guy right here, the Grand Scout, get yourself naturally to almost over that 80k, so you're guaranteed to restand 2 attacks with the Linka, with the PG break. It's just so tough, really, for your opponent to get around in general. There are ways to now in Premium where things can kind of get almost around it, but again, it's just so cheap, so easy. Everything is like dirt in this deck, dirt cheap, so I feel like this is actually a really solid strategy if you're trying to start out in the game. Super easy to pull off with a little bit of practice. Next up over here too, we have 2 of the Cosmos Swinger Unibird Galaxy. Unibird just really gets an extra crit, bunch of power, gets drive +2. It's just a super solid card overall. Again, I still think Grandgallop is worth it a little bit more, and that's why I've included add 1 more copy, but this is definitely a good backup, especially if you're going for more of a farm turn. Obviously, your flip fodder over here, Jumbo Glass is not terrible to go into either, but this is the expensive card. You don't need this, really. Like, you could replace this with something else, with either more copies of those. I only have 2 copies myself, and I find that it's app. And I apologize, but I don't know what happened. The rest of the video kind of got cut off over here, so I'm just kind of redoing it from that point. But we went over these 2 cards, I believe, right now, the Unibird and the Grandgallop. So moving on to the flip fodder, like I said, this is going to be the most expensive card in the deck. This is Geoma Glass over here. So I will say, if you don't have these, it's not the end of the world. So, like, you can honestly play without them. I've seen actually some builds kind of do that, and there's one Legacy Cup, I think it was last year or something like that, where somebody actually came in the top 4, I think, without running any Geoma Glass. So definitely is possible. Don't doubt yourself. But if you do have them, I think 2, it's fine. If you want to put in like 1 or 2 more, it's, you know, also fine. But it basically just gives your grade 3 units an extra 5k, both attack and shield. Also gives them the ability to intercept, making you a little bit more bulky overall. But also it can dig a little bit deeper into your deck and just get some other cards too. So overall, not a terrible first stride, but we really want to be going for the Grandgallop or the Unibird play. There's really no times where I would really stride into it, so it is just flip fodder in a way. Moving on then to some of our other choices. Honestly, like I said, just really, again, flip fodder, just stuff to fill the deck. You don't have to use these if you don't want to. Super Cosmic Hero X Falcon. CB2, when this guy hits, basically, if it's a 45k or greater, take one of your opponent's rear guards, put it into their damage zone. You only play this when you kind of feel like your opponent doesn't respect the fact that you do have crits in your deck still. So your opponent might need counterblast for the next turn. They say, all right, irregardless, whatever, you're just going to deal me 1 damage. Let's just go ahead. I can guard everything else. You'll put another thing into it. It's kind of like an automatic built-in crit if they need a counterblast, and you kind of gambling that you will hit a crit, an extra one, and kind of go past their calculations. You don't really go into it too much at all, so just, you know, if it's in there if you want it. Otherwise, you can go into this too. Again, just really don't really go into it all that much. When it attacks, turn a card for your G-Zone face up. I'm sorry, this is Dimax DX. This is from the what was it? I think it was 2019. That premium collection, not 100%. When it attacks, turn a card from your G-Zone face up, put all the rest of rear guards into your soul, and then reveal 7 cards from top of your deck. Call up the same number of cards as the same number of cards in your G-Zone from among them. 2 rear guards, circle in the order of highest power, and shuffle your deck. If you put 4 or more cards into your soul for this cost, and all your units get an extra 10k and a crit until the end of turn, so it's not terrible. Again, you need to kind of just, you know, just like basically re-upping your board, kind of like a fake Mordred in a way. So I do like that card. I've gone into it like once. Haven't really gone into it too many other times, but really the Grandgallop and the Unibird are your main plays. Getting into the G-Zone, I mean the G-Guards over here. Great Galactic Beast Zeal. 1 of these per game is actually pretty good. Auto on what is it? Soul Blast 1 when this unit is placed on Guardian Circle. Pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's units. Gets minus 5k until the end of battle. If the number of cards in your damage zone is more than the number of cards in your opponent's damage zone, you may counter charge. Also, one of your Vanguards gets 5k until the end of turn. So it's really nice just because, you know, you're blocking. It's a 10k shield on top of it, so 25k. But you're giving your Vanguard an extra 5k. So in a poke deck that doesn't really gain too much power overall, it's good. Not that really happens in today's metagame, but there are times where, you know, you hit a trigger, put this down, you're 28k base, and becomes a lot more defensive. But the best G-Guard in this game, not in the game, but in this deck, easily, Giant Armored Beast, Gigamadgler, whatever how you say, Greg. Giragamlagos. I think that's how to say it. But basically self-refilling and self-replenishing. So long as you have soul, you have enough for this. Be careful with your soul, though. At certain points, you will kind of need it for other abilities and skills throughout, but when this guy's put on Guardian Circle, Soul Blast 1, choose up to 2 grade 3 normal units from your drop and then put them into your hand. And then this guy gets 5k until the end of battle for each card you put into your hand. So this is really good. It paired up with the Geoma Glass, really just gives you that extra 5k on top of whatever shield your things have. So it's not terrible overall, and this is actually the best G-Guard we really have in a way. And then I'm just filling it out with 2 more of these. Oceanic Conversion Atlantis Dolphin. So this is the GB1. You basically flip a G-Guardian face up, and then during the battle this was placed. If your opponent's Vanguard attacked, you may pay the cost. If you do, this guy gets an extra 5k until the end of battle for each of your rear guards. So again, if you have a lot on the field, it's pretty decent. This guy's 30k or greater shield. You get the counter charge and soul charge one. Just don't really 100% need to be running 2 of these. I would probably actually just cut this down to 1, but I just go into this so much where I think I even forgot I had 2 of these really going. You only use 1 per game at most. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions about the deck. I'm totally happy to answer them. I honestly find that this is a really fun deck, something that's completely out of the blue. Your opponent doesn't expect the strong ride up turn, and obviously you get to your restand Vanguards over here. You have a PG break. You just do classic Dimension Police kind of things. It is a really solid deck for not all that much in general. You can really get the main core of this aside from the Geoma Glass for pretty cheap. I would say this deck probably costs under $60-$70, I think, for the complete set at this point. So thank you guys again. Let me know if you have any questions. This is Alex from Team Generation signing out.